I wonder how many fantasy series are out there that should get way more attention. Hi, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm sharing with you 5 fantasy series that, despite their quality, don't get the recognition they deserve. All of these are finished series, so after the video you can grab them right away and start binge reading them if that's something you want to do. And none of these series, funny enough, are technically considered traditional fantasy. They all have elements from other cultures or very unique magic systems or unique world building. So I hope they will be something for every one of you. And I'd say we jump right on in, shall we? The first series that I want to talk about is The Risen Kingdom by Curtis Craddock, the first book being An Alchemy of Mask and Mirrors. This is the story of Princess Isabel, who was born without magic in her blood in a world that is full of magic. And in order to serve her father, she gets married to the second son of someone. But the tricky part here is that someone's first 2 wives vanished and no one really knows what's happening. She is very careful and is trying to figure out what is happening so that the same thing doesn't happen to her. She's accompanied by her bodyguard, who is actually more like a found father figure, which is, by the way, an amazing trope in the entire, that pulls itself through the entire series. That found family trope, very well done, so amazing, so emotional, and so captivating throughout the entire series. But I digress. This series also stands out because of its world building, its magic system. It's incredible. So let's talk about world building. It's set on floating islands that you can only get to via airship. So you have a little bit steampunk element in there. And then the magic system, I don't think I've ever read anything like this in my years of fantasy reading. So as an example, one aspect of the magic system, there's lots and lots, but one of them is that people can use their shadows to kill other people. And it's so incredibly vividly described in the book. It just gets better with every entry in this series. What I also like about the books, you can binge them, but you can also stretch them out if that's something you're capable of doing. I don't know. The series has like a red string that pulls itself through the entire trilogy, but every book stands on its own. There's kind of a mystery that has to be solved in that one book, and then it's closed out, and then the next book you have a new mystery that the main characters are trying to unravel. Vibe is a little bit musketeerish French, which adds a whole nother level to the series. So it's just really different to a bunch of other fantasy series that are out there, very unique in that sense, and very readable and unputdownable from a writing style as well. So all in all, it checks all the boxes. There's nothing this series does not do well. The next series that I want to talk about is probably not going to be something for everyone, but those people who enjoy these types of books, I'm pretty sure will love The Chronicles of the Wolf Queen by K.S. Veloso, with the first book being The Wolf of Oren-Yaru. This was, I believe, an indie published series first, and then Orbit picked it up. This is set in a more Asian-inspired empire that is very close to something resembling peace due to a marriage of 2 children of the rivaling hat clans. The problem is that one of them, the guy, is disappearing shortly before the marriage, leaving that kingdom in kind of a weird state. And years later, where people think he's actually dead, she has taken on rulership of this country, but it's all very wonky. But years later, she is receiving a note from him asking her to meet him in a different kingdom. So lots of political scheming in here, very intricate. That's something that I really loved about this series. But the part that intrigued me the most about this series is Queen Tyann, who's the main character of the series. Very strong mother figure with all of the issues that come with she has to be the ruler of the kingdom. She cannot fail, right? She has to be strong all the time. But then you look behind the facade and realize that's actually not the case. And she is really, really struggling. Fantastic character depth in that regards throughout all the 3 books. This is actually a series that I do not recommend you binge because they were probably released with quite a gap in between. So book 2 and 3 repeat a little bit of what has happened in the book before. The struggles the character goes through get a little bit repetitive if you really read one book after another, which is what I did. In order to avoid this experience dampening your joy of the series, maybe you don't binge it. Continuing on the theme of character-driven and emotional, the next series that I want to talk about is an indie-published series called The Rainfall. I actually don't know if it's Rainfall Saga or Rainfall Trilogy. I think it's just Rainfall. Book 1 being Salt in the Wound by Benjamin Averin. Book 3 was just recently published a couple of weeks ago. This is an Arthurian-inspired post-apocalyptic sci-fi, but with a very heavy fantasy theme. So other than the post-apocalyptic part, it's actually a fantasy. Years ago, something happened, and now we have rain wights living in the rain, which makes it impossible for people living without some sort of shelter, because those rain wights pull you into who knows where. All the towns, all the villages have to be covered up by stone or by canvas or something else. And the series starts with a group that love Arthurian stories with characters named aptly to fit these stories, to find a treasure that will save their canvas town from ruin and will help them prosper. This is one of those series where you also have a lot of elements that really make this stand out. You have a very unique magic system. You have a very unique bestiary when it comes to like the fantasy creatures that are part of the story. The character depth is incredible. This book's shining star are the characters. They all go through something, but it's handled with so much care and so much respect to what it is that they are going through that it is fantastic and mind-blowing at times to read about it and to see what these characters do throughout the entire trilogy. It's a very bingeable series, very great to read with a very satisfying ending. Another indie published series is the Chase and Daniel series by Alice Johnson, with the first book being Harkworth Hall. This is more a gothic horror, Lovecraftian inspired fantasy steampunkish series that is set in England and comes with a lot of mystery story vibes. So this is truly genre bending, and it's actually not just fantasy, as you just heard. It has a lot of elements in there, and that is what the series does really, really well. This series contains a 4-book total, and similar to the Risen Kingdom series, each book is kind of self-contained while you still have that underlying story that pulls you through all 4 of those books. They are all relatively thin, so they are really quick reads, very bingeable, great writing that perfectly shows you the vibe of this gothic horror British setting. It's really well done. This is using Lovecraftian element very, very well, especially in the later installments of the books. It gets to the point where I was sitting there and it's like, what the hell? Like, it was so fun to watch, like, what the characters are doing with what is thrown at them. And at the end, it takes such a like turn where you're just sitting there and you're like, what is happening? It was so much fun, and you did not expect that after reading the first book. So this starts out actually really tame in that regard, and it just explodes at the end of the series. I mean, this was such a fun ride to go through. The next, and with that, my last recommendation, will take you so far out of your comfort zone that there's no map that will ever get you back to that. And that's the adjacent Monsters duology by Luke Tarzian, consisting of The World Maker Parable and The World Breaker Requiem, 2 novellers, very short novels, as you can see I have the bind up here. This is a more literary dark fantasy that reads like a fever dream. Like, it deals with things like depression and is just incredibly emotional and atmospheric and vivid and not straightforward at all. So this is not something you read and you're like, oh yeah, I get it. You won't. It's not a straightforward storytelling. In fact, it actually jumps back and forth in time, and then it jumps into like dreams or visions. You know, you'll figure that out maybe as you read these. But yeah, this was just so incredible to read because it was so different from anything else that I've ever read or heard of or anyone talk about. Luke Tarzian is really an imaginative master when it comes to that dark fantasy and bringing those nightmares to life. those were the 5 underhyped fantasy series that I wanted to share with you that I really think deserve more hype on booktube or in general. Now it's your turn. In the comments down below, share your favorite underhyped, underrated, not talked enough about fantasy series so we can find more of those and give them the hype they deserve. If you like this type of comment, don't forget to hit the subscribe button because talking about underhyped books like this is kind of my jam. And then I hope I see you really soon with my next video. Till then, have a great rest of your day. Bye!